Let us discuss the types of casting process that are available. There are a number of casting processes widely used to produce the casted products. Accordingly, the casting process is classified into two varieties. The one is expandable mold casting and permanent mold casting. So, again, further, this expandable mold casting is classified into two categories. The one is permanent pattern casting and temporary pattern casting. The name itself, permanent pattern casting, the pattern is permanent one. It means that it can be used several times. Whereas the temporary pattern casting, in which the pattern cannot be used for number of times. The permanent casting is further divided into two varieties. One is hand casting and the second one is plaster mold casting. So, after all, temporary pattern casting is evaporative casting and investment casting. Coming to the permanent mold casting, where the mold is permanent, okay, it means that the mold can be used several times to produce the casted products. So this permanent mold casting, which has three varieties, the one is die casting, centrifugal casting and pressure casting. Now let us discuss these varieties of casting process in detail. The first one, expandable mold casting. Expandable mold casting is the one once the molten metal in the cavity has solidified, the mold will be broken to remove the solidified casted product. So these methods, it may be temporary or non-reusable molds. This expandable mold casting process, these are generally suitable for the pots with complex shapes and the materials that have high melting point temperatures. Now let us see the first expandable mold casting process is permanent pattern casting. This permanent pattern casting, the first and the basic casting operation is sand casting. Sand casting is widely used for centuries. It is very traditional approach. This is being used even now due to its simplicity. This process involves in several steps. Like, for suppose if you see the operation how it is, first place a wooden or metallic pattern, okay, in the sand to create the mold. Okay, for suppose this is the desired part to be casted, so the pattern is the replica of the desired part shape. Okay, so which will be created initially, and then this will be used to create the mold. Okay, later on fit in the pattern and sand in a gating system. So once the pattern is fixed, then you just remove the pattern. Okay, now the mold cavity is ready. So this mold, into the mold cavity, the molten metal or the liquid metal will be poured through the sprue, okay, which is fixed here. Okay, and where a pouring basin will be placed. Okay, and this liquid metal will be flown through this runner. Okay, and the gate which will be fixed at the entrance of the mold cavity. Okay, then the mold will be filled with the liquid metal, and also we use riser as a reservoir of the liquid metal. After all, the liquid metal will be solidified for some time. Once the liquid metal is solidified in the mold cavity, the desired part will be taken out from the mold by breaking the sand mold. If you see the advantages of the sand casting is that initially the sand casting it is preferred in the manufacturing process because of its flexibility, and it also can produce high complexity shapes, and generally it requires the low cost tooling, and the parts which are produced during the sand casting will take less time. However, this sand casting it has several disadvantages. The disadvantages are nothing but it has low dimensional accuracy, poor surface finish, and some of the defects that are raised during this sand casting, those are not avoidable, or the minimization of those defects cannot be controlled very easily. Now let us see the second category of casting process is temporary pattern casting. So temporary pattern casting is nothing but what? The pattern is not permanent one. I mean to say that the pattern once it is used, it will be dissolved or removed. Okay, so the casting of temporary pattern is an investment casting operation. Investment casting is also termed as lost wax casting since the pattern is made of wax. The wax patterns are how it is prepared. Let us say initially a die is placed here. Okay, so into this die the pattern will be prepared by injecting the wax. Okay, once the wax pattern is prepared from the die, the pattern will be taken off. Okay, so this one it is taken off. Once the pattern is taken out from the die, then the number of patterns will be equipped to the core. Okay, here as shown the number of patterns are assembled together. Okay, once the number of patterns are assembled together, then these patterns assembled product will be used for the mold preparation. So this will be dipped into some liquid which can be known as slurry of refractory material. Okay, so once this is dipped into the slurry of refractory material, okay, up to certain thickness, okay, then the mold will be prepared. The refractory material will be adhered to the patterns, these wax patterns, so that sufficient desired shape will be attained with respect to the pattern. Once the mold is prepared, then the next step is to remove the wax. So the removal of the wax will be done by heating the complete mold. Okay, so heated so that the wax melts away, keeping a refractory mold. The mold is then further cured to achieve the proper strength. It will be once in, for suppose if any amount of wax still is present in the wax, it will also be cleaned so that the mold will have the proper strength. Once the mold is ready, then the molten metal is poured into the mold. Okay, and the mold is taken out after the solidification by breaking the mold. Okay, then we'll get the desired shape of the patterns, okay, or the casted products. So this is the way the investment casting is taking. Let's have a look on the advantages and disadvantages with investment casting. So investment casting is of the parts with extremely complex shapes or the complex geometries can be casted as a single piece with this casting operation. Secondly, since the pattern is made up of wax, okay, so it has excellent dimensional accuracy, and also tighter tolerances can also be easily achievable with investment casting. Further, the surface finish of the parts casted posts can be achieved easily, and also it does not require any post processing. Further, these investment casting products, they do not require additional machining operations in order to reduce the allowances. Okay. Apart from these advantages, it has several disadvantages. What are the disadvantages with the investment casting is that initially it involves many complex steps. As we see the process, it has a number of steps, just 7 and 8 step, the final product it is coming. So this process, it is comparatively expensive. Second one is that it has high cost of dies to make pattern, has traditionally limited investment casting to large production quantities. Okay? It means that the infrastructure of this process is comparatively high. The high cost is due to the specialized equipment requirement, costly refractory material, and high labor cost. Further, the parts are difficult to cast if they require cores. I mean, say it is difficult to produce hala pots or where the core preparation is required. It is difficult to produce with investment casting. Let's see the next casting process is permanent mold casting. This permanent mold casting process, it is like the use of metallic dies, okay, which are permanent and can be used repeatedly. The operation is very simple. Here, a pressure die casting process is most common for aluminum material, zinc material, and magnesium materials. Okay. The liquid metal or the molten metal initially kept in the pouring basin. Okay. So then it will be injected through with the help of some plunger to the mold cavity with high pressure, and then make it solidify by make it solidify with the help of and make it solidify over a time. Once the cast is solidified in the cavity, then it will be taken out from the mold. Okay, so once it is taken out, this part again can be used to produce the next casted product. Okay, so this is the operation of a permanent mold casting. Now let us have a look on the advantages and the disadvantages of permanent mold casting operation. The advantages are this process is ability to produce high volumes of identical metal components with high levels of accuracy. Secondly, it is a cost-effective solution because it uses only single mold for number of castings. Third, the molten metal solidifies in a matter of seconds or even milliseconds for faster production, so the production rate will be high. And also, this type of casting process can be used very widely. The next advantage is that this product or this process can also be used for high complex geometrical shapes and which requires the precise components. However, it has also several disadvantages. Those are of it requires the expensive equipment and also the capital investment or the infrastructure to set up this process. It is comparatively high. Coming to the next type of casting process is centrifugal casting process. It's a simple casting process. Okay, this process uses liquid metal, okay, which will be poured to the center of the mold. Center of the mold, it is a rotating mold. Okay, the rotation can be done with the aid of a motor which is fixed with some rolls, okay, bottom rolls and top rolls, and the mold is rotating. Okay, because of this, what happens, the centrifugal force, the lighter impurities are crowded towards the center of the case. Okay, so that it can produce halopods. The axis of rotation is placed at the center of the desired casting. Okay, so this is the operation of centrifugal casting. So it has advantages, of course. The castings acquire high density because of centrifugal force. The material density will be very high. Due to that, it acquires high mechanical strength and fine grained structure. And also, the inclusions and impurities are lighter. Okay, so this can be eliminated very easily. Further, if you see, the mold does not require any gates and risers. Okay, and it also produces high output. And also for the shapes with halo interiors, it can produce without any help of cores. Apart from this centrifugal casting, which has several disadvantages. The disadvantages is nothing but inaccurate diameter of inner surface of the casting. So it should be taken care while producing the casted products with centrifugal casting. And also, not all alloys can be cast through this uh, centrifugal casting.